Hey, Springview, good morning. I trust you're doing well on this Sunday. This past Sunday we jumped back into video services, and it was November 15th. I believe it was March 15th was the first Sunday post-COVID, post the rise of COVID, and we didn't even have a service that came on us so fast. And then March 22nd is when we began our first video service. And we did video services for, must have been about 2.5 months until we got into warm weather in June, and then we moved outside, and for about 3 months we had services outdoors, which was a lot of fun. And then 6 weeks ago we finally moved back indoors and began to meet in something that felt a little more like normalcy, and it was nice. I enjoyed that, and now in God's wisdom and in providence here, we find ourselves meeting on video again. I don't think any of us would have picked this. I don't think any of us would have said we should start off with no service and video services and outside and back inside and back to video, and who even knows what's coming next and what kind of time frame we're looking at. None of us would have picked this, but at the same time, we want to trust God in all of it. We know that He is sovereignly in control, that He's working in ways we can't see and don't understand to accomplish His good purposes in us and through us and for us. And so I look at the future, and I trust you will too, full of faith, full of confidence and hopefulness that God is going to accomplish good in what feels like a difficult and challenging situation. Hey, a number of our church family are or have been dealing with COVID over the last few weeks, and a number of them are getting better. I'm thankful for that. Let me encourage you to continue to pray for them. Reach out to them, notes, text, cards, and encouragement. It is a difficult time, and let me encourage you to stay in contact and communication with one another. It's super important, and we want to pursue as much of that as we possibly can. Hey, I announced last week that we were going to, for these service videos, do things a little different. In fact, you're going to see things changing probably all the time. They'll be pretty similar for these next few weeks, but we will be thinking through and experimenting and considering different ways to connect digitally while we're unable to connect face to face. And one of the things that I told you we were going to do is try to shift away from a longer Sunday morning video and do more and shorter video. So last Sunday we considered, in this series that we moved into, a series that's called Back to the Basics, we considered last Sunday our first core commitment. Those things that we just have to commit ourselves to if we're going to grow together as the spiritual family, if we're going to build the spiritual home that God wants us to build and that we need to build. And so last Sunday we considered our first core commitment, which is a commitment to a deep spirituality. We want to move away from just a surface kind of, we say the right things when we need to and do the right things when we must, but we want to see a spiritual life that isn't a surface kind of compliance to rules or expectations of other people, but rather a spirituality that flows deeply out of our hearts that God is changing and working on. And we saw that happens. A deep spirituality grows and we begin to flourish spiritually as we move close to Jesus. He says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Apart from me, you can't do anything. But if you abide in me, he says, and my words abide in you, you ask whatever you wish and it'll be done for you. And God is glorified and we bear much fruit. We flourish and grow and mature into all that God made us to be. Well, we looked last Sunday at that core commitment. And then Tuesday we considered the first critical action. If we're going to grow in these core commitments, what is it that we have to do? And we saw on Tuesday that the thing we must do is we must pray. Prayer is the critical action that propels us toward a deeper spirituality. I didn't say this Tuesday, and I meant to. I want to say it to you now. We can't build the spiritual home. We can't grow the spiritual family that we need and that God calls us to be on our own. We can't. We have to ask Him for it. We have to rely on Him and ask Him to do that work of growing us up into Christ, growing us into maturity, growing us into lives where we are together spiritually flourishing and becoming everything that God created us to be. We can't do it on our own. We have to ask Him for it. So we've considered the first core commitment to a deep spirituality, the first critical action, which is that we pray. This morning, I want to think about the second core commitment. On Tuesday, we'll consider that second critical action. But this morning, I want to think about that second core commitment. And that is this: we have to commit ourselves to real friendship. Real friendship. Now, you might be saying to yourself, really, Ben? Friendship? I mean, friendship's nice and all, but that's one of our 3 core commitments? Friendship? I think it needs to be. You know, a couple of springs ago, Kelly and I went down to Chicago with some good friends of ours. He's a pastor, and I've known them since right after I got out of high school. So they're old friends. He pastors a church over on the other side of the state, and we went down to Moody Bible Institute to their pastors' conference. And we spent about 4 days there with our friends. So we spent 4 days listening to good preaching, going to some workshops, walking around the city, seeing some sights, visiting some shops, going to the zoo. We spent 4 days trying out new restaurants together. And at the end of those 4 days spent with friends, I just began to strongly think, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind, why isn't more of my life like this? Why isn't more of my life characterized by doing things I enjoy with people I love and care about? Why isn't more of my life like this? Because what I feel like, although I'm often around people that I love and care about, what I often feel like is that I'm running around, scrambling, focused on my stuff, and I don't take the time, I don't give the attention or give the focus to friendship. Friendship is massively important. It's huge. We could say it this way: people flourish when they truly connect with other people. People flourish when they truly connect with other people. Now, that shouldn't be any surprise, because we've been saying for a couple weeks now, nobody grows up into everything God created them to be on their own. We're not made to live on our own. People flourish when they truly connect with others. When they truly connect. Because there's a lot of friendship substitutes out there. Things that sound like friendship. Maybe we even use the word friendship, but they fall short. Think about, for instance, social media friendship. On Facebook and other platforms, we have all sorts of friends or people that we're following or people that are following us, and we use that terminology, friendship. But it really falls short of friendship, and we know it, right? That kind of friendship falls short in part because we control it. Whether I'm your friend or you're my friend, I just have to click. I can click to accept, I can click to reject, I can click to get rid of you or accept you. It's something that's under our control. It's shallow. It's never face-to-face. It's not real friendship, social media friendship. It's something, but it's far short of what we're talking about here. Or consider, maybe we could say not just social media friendship, but like a specialized friendship, where we have a friendship, but it's entirely around one shared hobby. You know, the person you like to go disc golfing with, or the person you go away on your scrapbook weekend with, or whatever it might be. Or the people that are in your age group, so you just happen to be interested in the same sorts of things and like to do the same sorts of stuff. Those aren't bad, but there's something short of what we're talking about here. Or another category that falls short, and I think we know this, is what we might call selfish friendship. Think back to when you were younger, grade school, junior high, high school. There were some people that you think, I would like to be friends with that person because everyone will think more highly of me if I'm friends with them. That person could do something for me. They could do something for my social standing, my social acceptance. To be friends with that person would be good for my image, or I might be able to get close to the. It's a kind of a transactional view of friendship, right? It's ultimately selfish, but that's not the kind of friendship we're talking about here. Friendship is and ought to be a deep, substantial, even life-altering thing. Friendship is a really big deal. C.S. Lewis, the British author, said that friendship is the greatest of worldly goods. He said, certainly to me, it is the chief happiness of life. The chief happiness of life, friendship. Look, you probably have, hopefully you have relationships like that. Friends, and they may be family members or relatives too, but friendships that are so close, they become a chief sort of happiness. One author I was reading just this week said, if you ask me about the best things in life, I'm going to give you names. If you ask me about the best things in life, I'm going to give you names. Think about that for just a minute. What names come to your mind? If you could spend a wonderful weekend with doing whatever you enjoy the most, do people's names come to mind? I would like to spend it with these people. It's a massive, friendship is a massive thing. Augustine, the great church father, said that two things are essential in this world. Life, he said, and friendship. Friendship, Augustine said, is essential. Now that it feels like a strong statement, maybe even overstated. Is friendship really that important? But you could make the case that friendship is at the heart of the story of the Bible, which is to say the story of the world. Before there was any world, before this universe was created, there existed a God who was in a loving relationship with himself, Father, Son, in Spirit, delighting in each other, enjoying each other, finding deep relational meaning, satisfaction, and joy in the three members of the Godhead. And then God creates the world, not because there was any diminishment, not because there was something lacking in himself, but because his joy and his internal friendship, if we want to use that word, was so great that he wanted to spill over and share it with the creatures he made. So he creates Adam in the garden, and he fellowships with him there. We get the sense in Genesis 3 that God himself would come down and walk in the cool of the day with Adam, that they enjoyed a kind of friendship, a kind of close, intimate sort of relationship that must have been wonderful, something we simply do not know and cannot know because of what happens next in the Genesis story. Because what happens next, of course, is that Adam sins. And as soon as Adam sins, Adam runs and hides from God. And that intimate fellowship, that friendship, that relationship is broken. And then God begins to take steps to restore the relationship and bring them back together. We were created for relationship. It's part of what it means to say that we were created in God's image. We were created relationship with God, but not just with God, also with each other. Think again to Genesis 2. God creates man, and the world is wonderful. Everything's great except one thing. He's all alone. And God says, that's not good. And he creates the woman, right? And she becomes his wife, and he is overjoyed because now he has another person with whom to relate and fellowship. A person who ought to be, in fact, his closest friend. Well, when sin comes, the man's relationship with God is broken, but the man and the woman's relationship is broken as well. And that's the world we live in today, a world where our relationships are often fractured and difficult and fraught with challenges. We know that that's what relationships are like. And yet we also know there's a kind of ache, a kind of longing. Could we get back? Could we get back to the kind of close, heartfelt, deep relationships and friendships that our souls crave? So something remarkable happens in the storyline of the Bible. Jesus comes, and in the upper room, communicating with his disciples, John chapter 15, we looked at this last week, at how earlier in the chapter, how God means to use to grow us in intimacy and union with him by abiding close to him. But as he keeps going in the chapter, in John 15:12, he says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I've loved you." So love one another, he says, like I've loved you. What is God's love? What does Jesus' love for his followers look like? Verse 13, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant doesn't know what his master is doing. I have called you friends." That's remarkable. Jesus says to them, I'm not referring to you as my servants. You are my friends. He says, love like I've loved you. Agape is the word, that strong word for love. And then he says, greater love is no one this, that he lays down his life for his friends. Jesus, the language Jesus is using here is essentially the cross is an act of God's friendship toward us. That the friendship that's been broken between us and God might be restored, that we might be reconciled to him through what Jesus has done. It's a remarkable thing. It's a remarkable thing. Jesus extends God's friendship to us in the gospel, and he calls us to friendship with one another. There are a lot of challenges to friendship. We can think of lots of reasons not to do it, one of which is we simply have diminished the value and importance of it. But busyness is a factor. Well, we're so busy, we've got so much going on that it becomes secondary. It's not a priority. For many of us, it isn't even on our radar. Technology is a challenge, both because it distracts us and takes us away from our relationships, but technology helps us be connected, but often connected into shallow sorts of relationships. Mobility is a factor. So many people move and lives are so transient that we lose track of people. There's many challenges to friendship, but friendship must be for us a core commitment, something we are strongly given to, something we make a priority of. I could have used words like we're committed to real fellowship. That's a good New Testament word, fellowship, and that's good. Or I could have said we're committed to community. That's kind of a common buzzword today. We're committed to building community. Those things are good, but I wanted to press in deeper than that. Community is broad. We have a sense of community with our entire church, or a sense of fellowship with lots of people here, but friendship is deeper and it's smaller. In other words, I want us to have a sense of community and a sense of fellowship with our church as a whole. But we need to press in deeper to a kind of real fellowship. We can't do that with 100 people. It'll be a smaller number of people for sure. But we want to be a church characterized by real friendship. People that come to Springview find friends. Real friends. Not social media friends, not specialized friends, not selfish friendships, but real friendship. Friendship where Christ is at the center. When Christ is at the center of our friendship, our relationship becomes something more than friendship. It could even be called discipleship. Because in our friendship, we're actually helping each other follow Christ. It's one of the reasons friendship is so important. Hey, look, if we have the wrong kind of friends, they're going to help us, lead us, push us toward other things, toward other centers, other values, other priorities. Having good friends is critical. Having friends is massively important. As Lewis said, one of the chief happinesses of life. I was reading this week that the country of Great Britain actually has I don't know if it's a real cabinet position or something honorary, but a minister of loneliness. Loneliness is, as many commentators have said, epidemic. Ben Sass, the Nebraska senator, his book, 2018, I think, called Them, talking about polarization and conflict in our society. And one of his big points is the real problem is not just politics, it's loneliness. People are looking for tribes, looking for connection, looking for family, looking for belonging, looking for friendship. And they find it in political tribes. Well, we want to pursue a friendship centered around Christ, real flesh and blood, connected relationships where Christ is at the center, where we can help each other grow. Friendship becomes for us a great opportunity. Again, it's good for us, but it's good not just for us, but it's good for our community. If Springview Community Church, imagine if we were known as a place where real friendship can be found. Oh, God to do remarkable things through a community characterized by deep, real friendship. No one grows up into everything God created them to be on their own. We need a spiritual family, a spiritual home. We need real friendship. Hey, look, this is my prayer, that God will grow us, each of us, in friendship, that we will develop real, deep, Christ-centered friendships that will be precious to us and will bear fruit in our lives, that God will use these friendships to grow us up more like Christ and grow us up into everything that God created us to be, and that as a church we would grow in friendship. and become a place where people around us find true friendship. Hey, listen, on Tuesday, I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what step could we take? What critical action could we pursue? What attitude, what frame of mind could we adopt that would help us move forward and take steps toward real friendship? So I'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. And in the meantime, let me encourage you, pursue deep spirituality and begin to pray and think, how can we pursue real friendship? May God bless you. Have a great week.